Welcome to Huff-In-Stuff podcast, where we have fun discussing board games, card games, and entertainment for the casual gamer. Brought to you by the Southwest Valley Gaming Group. We invite you to visit our website at huffandstuffpodcast.webs.com. And here are your hosts, Rob Huffin and Han Tiemens.
February 2nd, 2014. This is Episode 6. Organization, OCD in gaming, and etiquette in board gaming. We are talking today about fascinations with storage, organization, what people are doing with their rooms and their houses and how they deal with organization. We're also going to be talking about this episode, etiquette, and how people interact and what's the proper things to do and what people do that are not so cool. But before we get into that, what is the importance of today there, Hans?
Oh, today, I think more chicken wings or wings are eaten than
Today. Any
other day
Yes.
in all of America and any other day. It is Super Bowl Sunday, and I am very excited. Seattle versus Denver in New York. First time it's in a cold weather area.
Yeah.
I'm pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, I'm
How
interested in that too. I'm interested in cold weather stuff too.
Yeah, I this is a game where in a long time I haven't been able to just sit back and enjoy the Super Bowl, because there's always somebody in there, a team, a player, that I'm not a big fan of. I'm a pretty big football fan. I sit down and I watch all the games. I play fantasy football, but this year, I like Seattle. I know it's a hot, topic, but Richard Sherman, I like him. He's a polarizing character.
Yeah.
I love the city of Seattle. Marshawn Lynch and the Skittles that he eats after each touchdown, which is so fascinating to me.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, his mom used to give him Skittles and Pee-wee after he scored a touchdown. So now he still eats Skittles on the sideline after he scores a touchdown. But what's happened also is the fans have started throwing bags of Skittles and raining Skittles down onto him.
That I've never heard of this before.
Watch for it. I don't know how many Seattle fans are going to be in New York, but if he scores a touchdown, I got a bag of Skittles I'll be throwing around the house.
Wow, that's weird.
I want to join in. But on the opposite side, I love Peyton Manning. I was in marching band, and I used to march on the RCA Dome where he played. And we would warm up in the dressing room, and I'd always, wonder which one is Peyton Manning's, locker and area. And I think he's probably the best quarterback that ever played the game. So,
yeah, he's definitely up there for sure.
So the Super Bowl, I'll be happy if Seattle wins. I'll be happy if Peyton Manning and Wes Welker and Denver wins. I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't have a pulse of what's going on in the sport world as far as it doesn't seem like there's any hate or love for either team. It's either, I'm sure it's different if you live in those cities, but as far as the general public goes, I don't see there being any stand-up love or hate for either of these teams.
Yeah, and I think that's going to make it for more of a a game that everyone can enjoy and not, there's no polarizing player or factor, so it's just, let's sit down and watch some good football.
Yeah, we'll see, huh? And I'm interested to see how the matchup between Sherman from the Seahawks and Peyton is going to sort of line up. Sherman was going to cover, what's the smaller white guy on the...
Oh, Wes Welker.
Wes Welker. I can see that happening.
Yeah, he might do Welker. I think Sherman stays on the right side of the field most times.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're going to move guys away from the right side of the field.
Well, if you're the Seahawks and you got defense and you're going against Peyton, the biggest thing is you've got to sort of hide what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because he'll pick you apart, man.
I think, and on top of that, besides hiding and disguising, they want to play bump and run because Peyton gets the ball so out of his hands so fast, 1.5 seconds, and it's gone, it's out of there. And if they bump and run, and those cornerbacks and those secondary of Seattle is physical, if they delay the routes, Peyton could get hit, and then 37-year-old forced neck surgeries, Peyton Manning, he might be slowing down and not be as accurate and as into the game in that cold weather as he might be if he was standing upright.
Yeah, I think that if you're the TV networks, you're going to hope that Peyton Manning gets behind early. Because if he gets behind, he's going to light it up. He's going to be more interesting. If he gets way ahead, it's going to be a super boring game.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So they're hoping that Seattle comes out of the gate strong. So
yeah, and it's I'm very excited. I'm going to go home. I got a new recipe. I'm going to try to make buffalo baked cauliflower. We're trying to eat a little bit healthier. I got Had a cauliflower. I got to put some flour on it, some olive oil, base it in the buffalo chicken, and bake it up. So it should be a fun afternoon after we get done here.
Well, before we get into this becoming a sports network or a sports channel,
or a cooking podcast.
or a cooking thing, let's jump right into our next segment.
Hey guys, now it's time to talk about what we've been playing recently.
All right, it's now time for What You've Been Playing. This is a segment, of course, where we talk about what we've been playing lately. Rob, what's a game that you have had the pleasure to play lately?
Well, for Christmas, I got Fresco from my brother, and I've been interested to play this for a really long time, and the theme really interests me because I was an art major in college and then switched to graphic design, and I had some business classes. So art has always, my wife is an artist as well, and so she went to college to be an illustrator. So we are very interested in art, and that's what Fresco is. It's all about artists and redoing a mural or a fresco on the ceiling of this one chapel in Italy during the Renaissance. And we liked it. This one suffers, I think, a little bit from getting so excited that nothing can live up to it. So you get it and you're all excited and it doesn't quite work out. And that could be any game. That could be the best game in the world. But if you're so excited that your brain thinks it's going to be the best thing, nothing's really going to be the best thing in your mind than when you play it. You know what I'm saying? Just like a movie. You'd go and you're, this is going to be the best movie ever, and it never quite works out the way. Don't get me wrong. Fresco's solid game. All the reviewers say they love it. I think with a few more plays, I think I'll really like it. And what I did, I've gotten recently quite a few games that have that Renaissance period theme to it. And so what I did is I went on to the internet when I got paid to get best damn gaming coins ever, and less than $20 for 100 coins. So I got Renaissance style, so it could bling it out a little bit to help draw you in. Because there's one thing that I found with L'Italia, my other favorite, every time I break that out, everyone loves that game. Well, I bling that out with some pirate coins.
Oh, yeah.
And it draws people in, and that makes that game just a little bit better, because that, I think, what makes a game good is that drawing people in theme.
Those and I think those little bits can be a huge factor in it. I remember you first let me borrow a copy of your love letter, and you had these little gems for favors, and it felt so thematic, and it, that little game was just up so much by those little things. I went out and bought it, and I pull out, and I see just little red blocks. I'm like, oh, this will not do. And me and my fiance, we went to Michael's and Hobby Lobby and looked for something, and we broke it out. And the next time we actually played it this last weekend, and we had our gems finally, and we just felt, oh, this is so much better.
Yeah, it just kind of helps draw you in.
No doubt
and
about
it helps you sort of make the theme a little more interesting. Let me stop there and let me ask you what you've been playing.
Yeah, one of the last Thursday night board game nights, I had the pleasure of playing Smash Up, and that's an AEG Games by Paul Peterson, and it came out in 2012. And I think unless you've been under a rock, you've probably heard of Smash Up. It is a card playing game. It's very simple. There's two things. You play a minion, you play an action. And those, actions and minions have specific skills or details, and it allows you to do more things or draw more cards or affect somebody else. And I think the thing that makes everybody excited about Smash Up is that there's so many different factions. What you do is you randomly select two decks, you put them together, and you play as that faction. So the randomness, the changing every time, because this first time I played aliens and steampunk. So I was steampunk aliens, and somebody else was like ninjas and Cthulhu, and somebody else was bear cavalry and gnomes. So and each time we played, if we played it again, us four, if we played it a second time, each would have had different factions and a whole different deck and a whole different strategy to play it. Personally, that game that I played, I didn't very much enjoy. We had 4 players, and the guy who brought the game said the sweet spot, to steal a phrase from you, Rob, the sweet spot is 3 for that game.
Right.
4, you ended up waiting a little bit too long for your turn. Yeah. There was just a little bit more downtime, and it was hard to, the way to get victory points is you have to win bases, and with 4 people, it was just really hard to be able to maintain points at a base. The other thing that I didn't really like about that game specifically, that session, was my faction. For a first-time player, I felt like the aliens were a really hard faction to understand how to play. Almost every single card action or special skill of a minion was to remove another player's card and put it back in their hand. Well, I kept making the mistake of making somebody pick up a card and put it in their hand. They got to play it again and get that same awesome skill again. So it was sort of like, well, I'm just giving you a second chance to get that skill, and I'm taking points away from this base that we need to have there anyways to close it out and get victory points.
Yeah.
And it was there was much more actions, and it was all about clearing people off the bases. But the other faction, the steampunk faction that I had, they didn't have many minions either. There's a lot of actions because steampunk, they have zeppelins, they have, guns and all these different mechanical things. And it's just these actions that you play on bases to improve your minions. Well, I don't have many minions because I'm just pulling stuff off the board. So it was just a really difficult faction. That being said, I could definitely see it being a very fun game. I was very thinking about buying it, because I think the rules are simplistic enough, and once you play it a few times, you understand what each faction does, and you can really get into it, and you understand how to play the hands. And you can always take away the randomness and just pick a faction, and this is my factions that I like to play with. Depends on your gaming group and how they feel about that. But I thought it was a top-notch game. I could definitely see why it was taken off like a bat out of hell with popularity, because the artwork, the simplicity of the gameplay was top notch.
I played it, my friend Donna, and she broke it out last time she came over. We played it. Jenna had the same comment as I did, and for whatever reason, we played it through 2 or 3 times. Actually, we broke it out for the New Year's Eve party we had here, and Donna came over and played with us. I didn't like it all that much. It was an okay game. Don't get me wrong, it had solid mechanics, and I kind of liked how there was a base, and you had to kind of control the base, and that part all was pretty cool. There was something about it. One of the things that I do not like when it comes to movies, games, any kind of entertainment, it's too eclectic. When they're adding things, it seems like, what? Why do you put that in there? And this is one of the things about that game that people actually like that doesn't appeal to me. The gameplay's solid, and for me, it's a meh, kind of thing. But again, not saying that, to each his own. If you like that sort of thing, great, that's cool. One of the games we recently got through the Fantasy Flight game sale was Sky Traders. Now, have I talked to you about this before? Okay, we had played this 2-3 weeks ago, but I'm just now talking about it. The game needs something to it. It seems like a little too simplistic, I think. It's a futuristic sort of thing, although it's not, because they look like they're in the late 1600s, early 1700s, and they're in, these fancy balloons, and it feels a little bit like you could put on there a pirate theme, like in the 1700s, just in ships, and it would be similar.
Theme, so you could put anything on it.
You could pretty much put anything on it. What the neat thing about it, though, that is really interesting, is they've got this track where you can adjust the track so that the prices of a particular product is higher or lower. So the market, you can adjust the market with your influence. And you can go the negative route. But if you get boarded by the authorities, you're going to be, fined or whatever else. The pirates that came around, like a lot of games have this in their games, when you have a shipping type game, they have pirates. And the pirates that come around, you are completely not even powerful. If they shoot you up or whatever, it doesn't really hurt you. So that was another thing I thought was a problem to the game. I think what they needed was more of an event deck. Mm-hmm. Things that would come at you and hit you, or being able to alter your ship so that maybe you could have some guns on it rather than just some space marines or whatever.
So what's the end game in Sky Traders? What are you trying to do?
The end game is that you gain the most money and influence, and there's a certain formula, I think, to the two. I haven't played it in a little while, but it's escaping me the actual thing that makes you that victory. But it's either, I think it's money, actually, now that I think about it, because the influence gets transferred into coins or money, and they've got really nice coins. I mean, the artwork and the little figures are just gorgeous. It's beautiful, but I just don't, the game just falls a little flat. So sure. Anyways, what was the other game you played?
This is a game that I played a couple of years back in Illinois with my friend Scott, but I wanted to talk about it today because there's two ways when you play a game. Either one, you're the person leading it,
right?
And or you're the person who's just getting taught how to play it. The first 2 times I played it in Illinois, I was being taught how to play it, and then I'd say probably almost a year had gone by, and you had given me this game, and I decided to finally break it out. And this game is Mage Knight. It's by Wiz Kids and designed by Vlada Chavato.
That's my mistress.
Came out in 2011, and you came across a second copy, and you ended up sharing it with me, and it was been sitting in my shelf, and finally I had a buddy come over, and he perused, and it was like, do we want to play the same game we've played before, or do we want to try this new one? And I finally had to get it out and try to remember everything about that game, and all the details, and so much of it.
Right.
And we were working against the clock because our fiancés were coming home from yoga, and we knew, okay, we're going to have to eat dinner, we're going to have to watch movies, whatever. So we only had so much time. We ended up getting through maybe 2-3 rounds of it, but that short amount of time reminded me of how much I liked the game. And setting it up and being the leader and going through all the rules myself and teaching myself again I enjoyed it. It wasn't a hassle to read through and make sure I knew everything and remind myself of all of the different rules, because when Vlada Chavato's involved, it's very in-depth. There's going to be a lot of rules. There's going to be so much. But I just, going through it every step of the way, either remembering rules, rereading and figuring out new rules that I had forgotten, or just the actual playing through it, I remembered that I very much liked it, and I think the guy I was playing with, he really enjoyed it, and I think it's definitely a game that we're going to break out very soon again.
Did you play with Josh?
I did play with Josh,
Okay,
yes.
Josh, yeah, he's pretty cool, and what I like about Josh is he's pretty open to just about anything.
Yeah, he's
cool that way.
Yeah, he really wants to learn how to play the game. It's not just get this thing out and show me.
Sure.
It's what's the best way to do it? How do I do it?
Sure.
And another great thing, instead of just sitting back and being passive, is he'll ask the questions that he has, and that's awesome. As a teacher, I love when people do that.
It sounds like he feels comfortable with you, and that's what's important.
Yeah,
when you feel comfortable with someone, there's nothing worse than when you're with some folks, and the guy who's teaching it doesn't have a lot of patience.
Yeah,
and then you don't feel comfortable asking anything.
Yeah, and another thing that came up, my mind was just, after we played it and put it down, I laid down for bed, after the night with our fiancés, where we played another couple games of Love Letter, which are, us two couples, we just really love to play together. I was like, there can be some amazing expansions with this style of gameplay, these rules, this deck building with adventuring, with mana. It's, like, couldn't you do all the wizards from Lord of the Rings, like Gandalf the Grey and Saruman, and they go across and you could have specific decks for each wizard. I think that they could come out with expansions or parallel games that go along with the same rule set. That I think they've only touched the surface. As good as that game is, as in depth and how replayable it is, and I think it's one of the top 50 board games on Board Game Geek, ranked all time. But there's so many different options that I don't know if they're in the process of trying to figure out, or they haven't even thought of, but I would like them to start thinking.
There's a couple of things with that, and I follow the game the most because that is my number one game. When I want a go-to game, or I have a love for one game over another, it's Mage Knight. Mage Knight is my one of the first games that I kind of really got into the meat. My first game I bought was Dungeons and Dragons Wrath of Ashardalon. That was a huge disappointment. But I mean, it's a solid game, but it was a disappointment. But Mage Knight, the reason, and I was talking to Jenna the other night about this game, Mage Knight, and so many people don't like it. And there's a few reasons why. It's kind of fiddly. There's a lot of pieces. There's a lot going on. It's a bit of homework as far as, like, we're talking rule set. I mean, holy smokes, the rules are insanely complicated and there's a lot to it. But if you can get through that and you can start playing, holy smokes, amazing times that I've had, fond memories of just me and myself and my Mage Knight. It's just amazing game.
Which Mage Knight do you usually play as?
Oh, I mean, what character you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I've done...
Do you change it up?
I usually change it up. It's either one of the two. I usually like the sorceress girl, and her name is escaping me, or it's the knight with the gold trim.
Oh, Tovak. He's
Tovak.
Like the poster boy. He's on the front cover.
Right.
I choose I like his name's escaping me, but the dragon guy, the guy with the wings.
Oh, okay, yeah. He's okay. I think he's the least powerful. I think. Well, I shouldn't say that. The elf, I think, is the least powerful out of all the four. But this game, the two things, like I said, it's a little complex, a little fiddly, and a lot of people don't like that. It's a little too much for a lot of people. And number two, I think that it can be long, especially if you get more than 2 players. People think, oh, I'll just get my friends. It's not really made for 4 people, even though it says on the box it's for 4. It's really not. And so people get everyone together, and they're just like, wow, it took like all day to play this game. Because there's so much to it. I would suggest that if you have a buddy or a wife and you're open and you can learn this game is just amazing. I know a lot of people say that board games are for them a social thing, a social event, and it's true. It's for me, it's much the same. But this game, if you want something at home that you can do with just you or your wife or you or your best friend, this is the one to have. This is the one. If you can get through all that fiddliness and all the rules and all that, it will just, the payoff is amazing. And I would even suggest there's a gentleman on YouTube called Ricky Royal, and he does a playthrough. There's 2 different playthroughs he has, and that's how I learned the game. Because the rules, I couldn't get through them. I read them and I'd fall asleep, and it's like, wow, it's a lot to this. I just kind of, I didn't get through them. And so if you're learning the game or you're trying to learn it, go and watch Ricky Royal on YouTube. He will take you through it, and it's really good. Mage Knight, yeah, I'm telling you, the best game out there. Now, they do have 2 expansions for that game. And I have one. The other one is just, I think, another character. So it doesn't really give you a full expansion, like a full expansion. It's just another character, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but I keep up on this game.
Well, in the expansion you do have, what was added to it?
The first expansion came out, I'm trying to remember the name of the darn thing. It's this general, this evil general, and he has an army. And instead of you going and trying to take over the cities, because in the base game, one of the main things that you can do, the main scenarios that you can do, is you go and try to take over a city. And then they'll have, of course, minions or armies that sort of surround the city or inside the city. And then you have to build up your character so that by the time you get there, you're ready. You have enough strength to take it out. Whereas in the expansion, there is a evil general, and he's marching his troops towards where you start, your starting point. And if he gets to your starting point, I think the backstory is he's supposed to go there because he heard there's some heroes and he wants to take you out or something. So he's marching there to take you out so he can ultimately take over the land. So anyway, so you're trying to build up, similar to the base game, you're trying to build up yourself so by the time he gets close or he gets to you, you can fight him. Yeah. So, and that one I like almost more than the original base game. It improves on it just slightly. Sure. But it's the same base thing. But anyways, before we make this into a Mage Knight episode, what else have you been playing there?
Well, the next one I would like to talk about is a game where we only got maybe 2/3 of the way through it. But it's a game that, again, with my friend from Illinois, Scott, we played a lot, was Tammany Hall.
Right.
Tammany Hall is from Pandasaurus Games. It was designed by Doug Eckhart and came out in 2007. This is a game that it's not in print anymore, so it's really hard to get. And I had slowly been watching the price of it go up and up and up on eBay and Amazon and stuff like that, with only a couple, in stock that they were selling. And I was, just resented the fact that I wasn't going to get it. And I stumbled upon a website for, I think it's a local game store, but they have it in Indiana. It's called Card House. House, Haus, so it's a good, it's a good German store. So, but they had a copy for $39, and I had to just take it right then and there, and it got delivered, and I was super excited. I brought it Thursday, and I was waiting for you to play, and I got into a game of Sentinels of the Multiverse, and then you started another game, and then my game ended, and I waited, and your game ended up being a really long game, so then I went and played Smash Up, and so we only had about an hour to play it, and when you're teaching Tammany Hall, as with any game you teach it's going to take a little bit longer that first time. Right. So we got about 2/3 of the way through it. I think the people playing liked it. It was kind of hard because 2 people were like, oh, the store's... Because at a game night, the store closes. The guy's like kicking everybody out. Hey, we got 20 minutes. Hey, get out. They wanted to buy some games. So they kind of like walked away from the board a little bit while we were still playing. But the Brad, the one guy, he was really excited. I think he really liked it. He stayed and helped me and you get through the rest of it and kind of just, But I'd like to hear your thoughts. I've played the game many times, and I know what I think of it. But
well, let me just say first of all, component-wise, quality-wise, just in general, the box alone is just amazing.
That box is awesome.
Yeah,
right?
I know a lot of people are like,
thick.
"What do you care about the box?" Let me tell you, man, you need a good box because a lot of these games I don't know about you, but I intend to have them for a while, and it helps protect the game itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to have a box. It has one of the best boxes I've ever seen. And I know it sounds kind of silly. People are like, what do you care about the box? It really does. And it adds value to your game as well. So if you ever had to sell it or something. So anyways, great box. All the little pieces are really cool. I loved all the little, they're like small pucks that have all the favors, I guess they were called, that you would get. And they have great little stickers or symbols for each race or each faction or race or whatever.
Immigrants. Yeah, there's like
Immigrants,
the Italians, the English, the Germans, and the Irish.
Yeah, and then the board, the artwork is like it would be right out of the 1870s or something.
Yeah, so back up a little bit. This game is about New York in the 1800s, late 1800s. Think gangs of New York and all these immigrants around, and you got like Boss Tweed, like you're that kind of mayor where you're gonna do whatever you can to control whatever districts you have, and the more districts you own, the more victory points you get. And it's got blind voting, it's got negotiation and backstabbing. Now I won't vote for this district if you let me have the other one, and all of a sudden I'm voting for it, and I tricked you. It's great. The nice thing I like about it is there's so many different strategies because you have to. The person who owns the districts with the most amount of immigrant types in it, they get certain victory points, and then for each district you own, and some districts have special, bonuses. You can get extra political favors, or you get extra victory points if you hold that district. So there's a lot of extra little things. But that being said, every single rule, every single step is on the board itself. Like the directions are on the board. It's so simple. After the first time you played, and Brad, the guy I introduced it to, and his wife, they agreed. Like, okay, next time we play it, there's going to be more negotiating because now we know what we're working towards.
Right.
We know what districts we want to go to or where we want to put our immigrants because now we know. And I think that they were very, very much wanting to play again.
Well, yeah, Brad and I think her name was Jennifer.
Yeah.
They were really cool people. I really liked them. And it helps when you're playing a new game and you're with people that are good people. Mm-hmm. It really helps, I think, your gaming experience. But they were great people. And I think we were having a pretty good time with it. Learning a game is never maximum fun on a game, but you have to do it. You have to learn it. And I think that, like you said, the next time we play this, it should be a blast because good gaming has a little bit of negotiation involved.
Oh, yeah.
The good games.
And in all honesty, I was a little nervous to break it out because, this is a political area control game.
Right.
Who gets excited about that?
Right.
But once you are in it, you realize, okay, it isn't a dry theme.
Right.
It actually is a great theme, and it isn't a dry game where we're just trying to manage our areas and vote. There's so much into it that
right.
you got to think. And the great thing about the area control we talked about a few episodes back, you can see who's in the lead, and then everyone can target them and not make deals with
right.
them. And then that person in the lead knows they're in the lead, and they have to
right.
really think, how am I going to keep the lead, and
right.
how am I going to manage my voting tokens so that I have enough for each district that I have to win.
Well, and that's a lot of games. I mean, when the guy's in the lead, I've heard several gamers complain about that. They're like, well, everyone was targeting me, and that was kind of BS. And I'm thinking to myself, but you're in the lead. When you're in the lead, you're going to get targeted. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but in some games it's easier to do something about it. Like in Tammany Hall, it's easier. Everyone decides, all right, we're going to take them. Lords of Waterdeep, I can give you a mandatory quest, and that might not get in the way that much.
Right.
But there's some things that I just can't stop you from being in the lead. This is a game where the whole group can say, all right, let's put this guy down. He is running roughshod over all these districts. We got to get rid of him.
Yeah, I'm really interested because when I first heard about this game, even before you had said it, I had heard about the game and very little reviews about it online. Mm-hmm. And so when I heard about it, I'm like, well, goodness, the theme sounds horrible. And not only that, but that's kind of, I don't want to say a scar in our history, in our country's history and politics and whatnot, but it's not a pleasant,
sure, yeah.
It's not a pleasant thing. And so when I saw the board and I saw all the pieces, it completely drew me in. And I love history. I love it. Just from those little like boss cards that you would get passed around and everything. They had the little wood die cut drawings on them and everything.
Yeah, the old political cartoon look.
And it looked cool.
The deputy mayor was overweight and had just like they do in the New York Times.
Yeah,
these awesome political cartoon pictures on these cards. And speaking of those cards are amazing because the mayor, the person in the lead, has to give those cards out to people. He's giving power to other people, and then usually that power comes and bites that mayor in the butt because they're going to use that power against the person in the lead, and you have to choose your poison. You have to negotiate. I'm going to give you this power, but you cannot use it against me.
Yeah, it definitely gives a little bit of flavor and a little bit more complexity into what would, without it, would be just a regular area control / Euro game.
And I think it also helps in stopping that runaway player effect where I'm in the lead, I'm going to stay in the lead. Whereas now, not only are people going to gang up on me with their regular skills, but they're going to gang up on me with these extra skills that I provided you as the leader.
Yeah, that is true. I never thought about that, but because I haven't played it all the way through yet. But I'll be really interested to see if that is the case, if those things negate it.
Baby, it looks like it's gonna hail. Baby, it looks like
And now, it's time for Word of the Day.
All right, as the intro told you, it is now time for Word of the Day. Today's word or phrase is analysis paralysis. You may hear it abbreviated as AP. Analysis paralysis, or the paralysis of an analysis, is the state of an overanalyzing a situation so that a decision or action is never taken. In effect, paralyzing, the outcome. You probably see this a lot in those deep strategy games. It slows the game down and can really make people upset. Rob, what's your experience with analysis paralysis?
Well, I know that this is something that is that really frustrates gamers all across the world, really, and they joke about it. And there's even been when people have Kickstarter programs, they'll even have little tokens that say King AP or something like this. It's really funny.
The one that I saw before I even knew what analysis paralysis was, it was early in my gaming when Catan was really the only board game that I played. And there's the longest road, there's the largest army, and then I saw online the longest turn, and it was -2 victory points. And I printed that sucker out, and I never brought it, but I warned him. I was like, I've got the longest turn, card, and you're gonna lose 2 victory points because you sit there and you just make a decision already. Let's go. I got these resources burning in my pocket. I want to spend them, and you're taking forever.
That is frustrating, and I try to be cool about it because, especially like you said, when there are some really complicated games with a lot more going on, that people have a tendency to take a lot more time doing it. So I try to be understanding, but it's frustrating.
But I'll tell you what, man, when roles reversed, when you're the person thinking, you don't really think you're thinking that long. No. You're just like, guys, and then I don't know about you, but for me, when I feel like I'm taking a long time, my mind, instead of going to what I should do next or the tactic I should try to employ, is, am I taking a really long time?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I feel real bad. I need to do this faster. Then I'm like, I need to focus in order to do this faster. And then, it's just a vicious cycle.
You can't completely get rid of it. It's a kind of a part of game where you get people together and there are, a lot of thinking going on or a lot of important decisions to be made. My wife has a tendency to do this too much, especially when we're playing complex games or Euro type games where she sits and she thinks, because she's so worried that she's not going to make the right decision, that she's she almost overanalyzes things.
Well, I think those games where one round has a ripple effect, Agricola. If you decide to take wheat instead of taking, the wood that turn, now all of a sudden it takes you 4 turns to make up for it. Le Havre, that's another one. I mean, those really deep games where it's a ripple effect. Now, King of Tokyo, if I decide not to take hearts this time, whatever. I don't have to think about it that long. I can look at the dice. All right, the dice are kind of telling me what decision to make.
Sure.
So it definitely is based on the game, obviously.
Sure.
But I don't fault people for it.
No.
I'll tease them. I'll jab at them, and hopefully, if I decide to play a game with you, it's because I think you're a person that can deal with the things I'm going to give you.
Sure.
I think we've all been, paralyzed by our tactics at times.
Yep, it's something that just happens.
And now it's time for our main topic.
Okay, now we're on to our main topic of the day, which is going to be about storage. Actually, this is part one of our main topic. We're going to do something a little differently this time. We're going to have two main topics. Storage. Now, this is something that really fascinates me. And I think that when it comes up, blogs and podcasts, I'm fascinated. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have a podcast about this. Because I'm really fascinated by how people store their games, whether it be how they store it on a bookshelf or how the actual game is stored inside the box. Mm-hmm. What do you think about this?
I think both sides. I think I'm with you. They fascinate me. I am someone. My Opa, my grandfather, he used to be a side job. He was a barber, and then he had a side job as a night janitor, and he'd go around and clean out an office. And sometimes, my father would send me and my brother over there. And my brother I was a little bit younger, but he would always put me in the closet, and I was in charge of organizing the shelves. So
Interesting.
I had to put all the cleaners together, all the paper towels together. So I was just sitting there. I'm a third or fourth grader. 12, 11 years old. And just organizing these things. And I took such pride in figuring out a new organizational system. I'd go, every 2-3 weeks, and my Opa, my grandfather, he would, have it all unorganized, and there'd be new products that I have to get in and restock and stuff like that. So I would be doing that as a little kid, and I took such pride in it. And that transferred over to my board games. Now, I only have 20-some board games that I have to organize. So it's not, it's not overwhelming at this point. Sure. Hopefully I get to that point where it's more of an in-depth, process, but I definitely presentation. When I have people come over, Josh comes over or somebody comes over and I show them, give them the tour, and we store my board games in, we call it kind of, I don't know, it's kind of, I guess, the office, kind of a rustic, we've got a leather couch, a really nice desk, the computer, we read books in there, but I've got them on a shelf in there, and to me, it's part of the room decor. How I present it is going to make or break the room. Pressure on myself to put it all together nicely. And I definitely take pride in it, and I enjoy it.
I know that with regards to rooms, most of my game playing, or my game room per se, is we have a 2-story house, for those of you who don't know, and it's considered a loft area. And this is a great spot to play games because it's not necessarily dedicated to any one thing. So I just kind of made it our game room. And in the past, one of the reasons that sold us on this house particularly was that we had that game room. And at the time, our kids were a little younger, and we wanted them to have a playroom. And that was a great little area for them. Now they're in high school. They don't need a playroom, so I'm like, I took it over, and it's my gaming room. And but when we first moved in, we contacted a carpenter that had worked on our house, and they had laid him off, sadly. But we contacted him and said, hey, did you want some more work? Because we were looking to do some upgrades on the house. And so we put in these shelves that go underneath these giant windows that we have upstairs. And they're these, like, bookshelves, and underneath that were all toys. So one day I said, okay, kids, we got to go through your toys. And I'm thinking, when we throw them all out. Now, of course, I can't throw them all out because they'll get mad at me. But I went through and I purged some of their older stuff that they'll never touch again and gave it to the Goodwill. And then those slots are I've got 3 slots where I put all my games. And now I need to go through and organize them by, whatever, like a theme, or maybe by a certain genre or something. I need to do that. But that's where I keep all my games. And then we play games up there. I've got a nice little table up there we play. But yeah, that's where I keep my games. Regarding storage inside of the box, how do you usually store your games there, Hans?
Well, for the most part, I guess all the Settlers of Catan and expansions I've had, I just have kept it how, they have the insert, and I just keep in the insert.
Sure.
I guess the first challenge came with Arkham Horror because there were so many components.
Oh yeah.
And not only for the storage, but the ease to set up. What could I use that could easily be put out on the table and already be organized and already be, ready to play?
Now, that is something that I have to jump in here and say that I am a stickler for my games. I don't know about anybody else's games, but my games, it may seem like I'm a bit nutty when it comes to organizing my games, but I am hugely into organizing it in a way so once you break that box open, boom, you're off to the races.
Sure, yeah.
If you just threw everything in there after you were done playing your game, it's going to be harder to break it out and set up. And the thing is, when you have game time, you don't have a lot of time usually with people coming together. If it's just me, that's no big deal. I'll just break it out and have all kinds of time to set up. But if I got Hans over here or I've got Chad over, and you're getting people organized and together at one moment is kind of a tricky thing to do these days because of all the stuff we've got to do. And so I need to maximize that time. How you do that, or one thing that I do to maximize that time is to organize my boxes, the components and everything.
Yeah, I saw a friend for Arkham. He had these stackable cylinders that you could untwist, and it had a top lid and the other ones, and that worked awesome. I put, my hearts, my brains, my sanity. I put clue tokens. That was one stack, and then I made another one that had my money, and I could just unscrew it, put it down, and it had a little petri dish with the components in it already. Just place them out on the board. They're organized, they're connected, and it's super fast and super easy. I loved it. I was most proud of that, and then I had these little kind of treasure chest plastic boxes, again I got from Michael's, for my character stand-ups, and for the I don't know, what are they called, the counters on where you put your levels on.
Sure.
So, anyways, I felt extremely proud about the way that I had organized, and it was super quick, and to take it even one more notch, I took a picture of it, so I could always remember when I put it back in. Pull it out my phone. All right, this is how I had it organized, because it was perfect. The box sunk completely closed. There was no gaps. It was not, where one end is sticking up a little bit more than the other end on the top. It was completely flat. Everything was where it was needed to be, and I was able to get it out and get it playing right away. And I took a picture of it just so every time I put it away, is this how I had it? Yep, perfect, done. It's gone. Perfect.
Yeah, and it's true. I also have those Petri. They're like round. Mm-hmm. They look like cylinders.
Yep.
And you
when
unscrew
it, it's
them,
like a little Petri dish.
And I got it at Hobby Lobby, mine.
Yeah.
And they come in a set of them, like 5 or 6 in one set.
There's different diameters. There's smaller ones, and there's a medium, and then a larger one.
Let me tell you, those are winners, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Those are huge winners. My only problem is that they're a little more expensive than the other ones I get now. Chad, my friend here, also told me about going to the 99-cent store. They've got these little plastic boxes. They're very cheap. It's $1 for like 10 or 12, and they're great. And that's what I've got a lot of my games in. The beautiful thing about the Petri dish thing that you're talking about, I don't know the actual official name for it, but we'll call it that.
Let's run with it.
We'll do it, right? Those Petri dishes are great because just like you said, you unscrew them. It's like a container that holds it, so they're just not all over the board. So when you're done playing, they're there. They're already in a container. It's clean time's a lot easier.
Yeah.
So they are huge. And every time I break those things out, I've got them for my Elder Sign game in those. And every time I break out Elder Sign, people are like, "What? What are those? Those are cool."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a little bit of a wow factor. Like, I take pride in the way I put my board game together.
And the cool thing about those is I think that they're really sturdy.
Oh, yeah.
So if you were to drop it or something, like let's say you had something in plastic bags, there's a potential there. There's a potential for things to get damaged.
I actually bought a couple of those Petri dish for my desk at school, and I like paper clips, eraser tops, just staples, everything I want, and it's just sitting out there, and the kids are able to come grab something if they need it, unscrew it, and they enjoy unscrewing it, rescrewing it together, and stuff like that. It's definitely transferred over to my normal life.
We're kind of getting into now one of the, when it comes to storage is cost, because I know a lot of people, when you get above like 20 games, you've got a lot of games that need to be organized and protected. So you're trying to be careful about how much cash you spend on that sort of thing. I know that I'm always on the lookout for something cheap, and I know that Hobby Lobby has, I keep bringing them up. I'm giving them business here.
Well, not business for long. I saw a post that over 400 locations of Hobby Lobby are being closed. So get in there and see if they get anything on clearance for
I
organization.
sure hope ours don't close.
Yeah, it might be Michael's or bust from now on.
Yeah, that's too bad. Also one that's like a fishing tackle box sort of thing, and it's over in the jewelry section.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like $1.99 or something. And it's like, that's freaking awesome. And I buy like 5 at a time because those things are cool.
And, the more games you have, the more you can dumpster dive or look for those deals, because if it doesn't work for that game, you can try it for another game.
Yeah.
You might have an idea. My biggest worry when I first started doing it, because again, I'm a teacher, I don't have a lot of money. I've already bought the game for $59, $69 bucks. I have to pay another $15 to organize it. my biggest fear is because I didn't have many games. If I buy this container, this is the container I'm choosing to use, and if it doesn't work, then all of a sudden I've got this container that's just sitting around taking up space, and I have to buy another thing for it.
Right.
I think the more games you get, if it doesn't work for this one exactly, then you can try it for another one.
You could also say that there are people who actually craft their own boxes. Now, I've seen this online at BGG and other places. Wow. Some of these people, they're real craftsmen, boy. Whew. I mean, they'll take like wooden boxes and stuff. And I know back on the first episode, I had talked about this briefly, but I have 15 millimeter soldiers when I used to collect them. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Because they're like these lead soldiers that can be easily bent. And so it sort of, they freaked me out because they were kind of expensive. And I wanted to make sure they were protected. So what I did is I employed my dad, who's kind of a handyman, and so he and I made boxes for them. And I put down felt, and I put down little dividers, and that's something else that is amazing when someone can do that.
Yeah, way back when I was younger with my family, my brother, my mom, and my dad, we played, the Warhammer Fantasy with the miniatures and painting. And they would spend so much time when they're painting, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't let it get chipped. I can't,
Right.
I was little, so I slapped on some paint and then threw it in the container. I didn't really care. I just wanted to pull them out and play them. But they would have these thick foam, and they'd put the base down, they'd cut it out, they'd almost form fit it into that foam and put every character in it, or they'd put a foam down, alternate them from the bases, put another foam down, and they just took such good care of them. And that was probably my earliest, how are we going to store this? How are we going to and then not only store it, but we had to transport it. So we had to buy big old things with handles on it, because otherwise you're carrying these boxes. It was, they took a lot of pride in their storage. They were very proud when they whipped it out and everything was in pristine shape. All the little rocks and moss that they put on the base didn't fall off because they took such good care of it.
Right, and I've seen also people go and get metal boxes and they'll put little magnets on the bases so that they would stick to the box there. But to me, I'm just blown away by the expense of that.
Yeah, that would
just like, holy smokes, you guys are spending a ton of money.
Magnets are not cheap. I was watching a Shark Tank the other day and someone had magnet Christmas lights. And most of the sharks didn't want to get in on it because the cost of the magnets was so much. A great idea, but you can't get that manufacturer price down because magnets are so expensive. So you can imagine an army of over 400 pieces. That's 400 little magnets you got to buy. That cost goes up real fast.
Right. I'm changing the subject here, but I know a lot of people sleeve their cards on their games. When I first started getting into the hobby, I was really thought, I'm going to sleeve all my cards. Well, it gets pricey. And I went to several different companies. I tried all kinds of places. I tried like sporting card manufacturer. The name is escaping me now. And then I went from them, but the cards didn't fit in there. They were all too loose. And so to shuffle them was really hard. So I stopped going with them. Then I went to Mayday cards, and Mayday's known for their sleeves. So I went with them for a while, but then it got a little pricey. So, I'm always looking for that deal that'll get me a ton of them for cheap.
I'll tell you what, though, also with sleeving changes the way that you can organize a game. The only game that I've sleeved thus far, well, Love Letter I did just because I had extra, and it's simple, it's a little bad.
Right.
But Blood Bowl Team Manager, there's a little insert, it fit real nice with everything normal. Once I sleeved everything, I couldn't fit it all in there.
Sure.
But then I had another awesome, successful story of organizing my game. I'm so excited. I have those little half sandwich baggies and everything you need for each team. Their original deck, their cards, their tokens, everything is in one bag. So I can just throw those bags out and like, which team do you want to be? And I feel super, impressive when I have everything all together. And then when you get the cards out and they're sleeved, I don't know, there's something about it. Maybe it's just still a novelty to me because it's the first game that I sleeved, but I feel great playing and I love the feel of it. Sure, shuffling's a little bit more of a hassle, but not enough for me because I'm holding the cards and interacting with the cards way more than I'm shuffling, and I think the pros outweigh the cons.
Sleeving for me, I agree with you wholeheartedly. There are some cons there. But if you play a game a lot, like I've sleeved Libertalia, and that game comes out a lot, and that's the reason why I sleeve those. Because people, it's a card game, they're getting nervous because people are, killing your character or whatever, so they're all nervous and they're holding on the cards really tight, and if you sleeve them, it'll help protect them. I came to the realization that I only want to sleeve games that I play a lot, that comes out on the board a lot.
Yeah, I think the next, not only sleeving, but organizational challenge I have is the Mage Knight I got from you. I got it, and it's kind of put together, but not in the way that I want it. Like all the tokens, all the the dragons, the orc hordes, the castles, the strongholds, they're all in just one bag. So every time I have to reorganize it and put it out, that adds 3-4 minutes to the gaming process. Sure, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have to do it every time, I played that game 10 times, I just lost a half an hour of gaming. So to me, to organize it, and some of those cards, they had real big bends in the middle. Now, I'm not going to complain because I bought it from you real cheap, so that's going to be in it. But once I sleeve it, then I don't have to worry about it anymore. So, I guess the type of game and the condition that I get the game in, or like you said, how often I play it, are going to go into how much organization. I've not organized Letters of Whitechapel. There's no reason to it. I mean, there's nothing in that game. I can use everything that the insert does. I don't have to worry about it. But, games that have those components that, like Arkham, like Mage Knight, that you just want to bust out and be able to play right away. So I'm actually very excited now that I played it this last weekend, this Mage Knight. I'm super excited. I looked in the box. I was like, oh, man, I've got a project. And I got kind of excited about it.
It's funny because I get kind of excited about organizing almost more than I do actually playing the thing. Because when I get a game, I immediately tell my wife, I'm like, we got to go to the store and get stuff. I mean, hopefully I've got it in the house because I've got a whole area there where I've got this gigantic bag of just bags, boxes that I go to and I break out all the stuff. Okay, I'm gonna organize this. Oh yeah, and then it starts after you play it a couple times, the actual game. Then you're like, oh well, I see. So now I've got to put all of player A cards, tokens, all in one bag. So all they have to do is break it open. They've got their stuff.
Yeah.
So that's another whole issue that we haven't talked about. But making sure that you organize it in a way that speeds it up. And I guess we have talked about that, how it speeds things up.
I think the point that you said is play it a couple times before you try to organize it. Because you don't know how it's going to come together. Without playing Mage Knight 3-4 times, I'm not too sure. How should I organize my cards? Which one should I put together? Arkham, I know, I'm going to put all my, location encounters together, and I'm going to put my mythos and my board phase ones together. You have to play it a couple times in order to know exactly how you want to organize it.
Sure, and then the costs are something that's a little daunting to somebody. And at the end of the day, I stopped trying to put so much money into sleeving and organizing unless I know that I'm going to break the game out. If it just sits on the shelf for once a year, I'm probably not going to sleeve that game.
No.
Or like a game like I have a game Thunderstone and I've got 3 expansions on it, and so we're talking hundreds of cards. I'm not going to sleeve every card. That would cost me lots and lots of money.
Yeah, I've organized Arkham, but I haven't sleeved it just because I know that there's so many cards. I have another expansion, and I don't know if that's a project that financially I want to take on right now.
And now comes our part B, and we are just going to gloss over this because of time constraints. But one of the things that often be involved with gamers is etiquette.
And, I don't think we want to go too deep into this either because we'll have too many personal stories of game or nights being ruined from some of these, and we don't want to put those people on blast. So if we just run through a couple of the...
let's just run through some basics.
Yeah.
So and what we wanted to do is, this probably could be for a whole nother episode, but let's just go over this. I saw it technically you could put this into our question and answers of our episode, because I saw this on a BGG site where they were talking about things that frustrated gamers and had to do with etiquette. Number one, why don't you start with number one there?
Number one is a feat that I've never seen, and I hope I never see it, and that's flipping the board or having like game rage to the physical point of flicking cards or pieces on the board, or all together flipping the board. Obviously, I think that goes without saying. That's not something you should do.
I know people can get competitive. If you're just getting frustrated or something, just get up and take a walk. Go get a drink or something. Come back.
Bring a stress ball with you. You never know.
Yeah. The second one is try not to complain too much if you're losing or if something's not going your way. Just try to be cool about it.
I think you just have to realize that there's going to be more games you can play.
Right.
Sure, this one didn't work out for you. Guess what? You can play that game again at some point. It's never going to be your last game of it. If you want to play another one, you'll find another way to play it.
Right. Number 3, go ahead, Hans. What
Never eat finger foods while handling game pieces. Someone paid money for that game. And if you're eating something like Cheetos or something that's sticky on your hands, I went and played Sentinels of the Multiverse, and I was like, I told them I wasn't going to play. I said, I have some soup I want to eat. I don't want to. They're like, no, it's okay. So I got permission before I ate it, and I kept it off to the side. But don't just assume that your food choice is okay with the person whose games it is.
Yeah, just be careful, and if there is something being eaten, or try to ask ahead of time. Whenever I have game nights, I try to have like pretzels or something dry and simple with maybe some water or something. Don't have like soda that can splash all over and get everything sticky and ruin stuff too. Mm-hmm. So the other one is, and we just had this in the word of the day, but AP, or analysis paralysis, making this game slow down a little bit. Just try to keep that in mind. I know it's kind of hard to say, because I know with a more complex game like we talked about before, it's going to be hard to totally eliminate this in games.
The next one that we got on this list here is don't gloat. Don't be a poor sportsman. Got to show that sportsmanship, taking everything as you win. Same thing, you don't want to complain when you lose. No one wants to hear you gloat that you won.
Right.
My cousin, her family, they play a lot of Ameritrash games and stuff like that, and she said that when she was a little kid, the rule was if you won, you put the board game away.
I like that.
To me,
that's
I think
awesome.
that's great. It's not only does it show that winning's not the most important thing, but everybody, even the winner, has to do some work. I don't know. I liked it. It was a cool little.
And look, what we're basically talking about here is sportsmanship, and you could sum up this whole thing as sportsmanship. Really,
sure.
Just keeping others in mind. I played enough team sports to know that if you didn't show enough or good sportsmanship, you're going to start a fight.
Yep.
And I learned that, and I was also a referee when I refereed for hockey. You got to show that you are noticing everyone around you, and you're going to have to act accordingly. And if you don't, there's going to be problems. And I mean, with other people are going to have problems with you. So just try to keep in mind others around you. The other one is, I'm just going to jump down to some others here. Cell phones. We love our cell phones. Everyone has their cell phones, and they got the little apps on it. Try to put that away. I know that I try to keep it on because I have a family, and if I need it, there's an emergency or something, they need to call me, then I want to be available. But at the same time, I don't dial up solitaire as I'm watching someone else play.
Yeah, I've been caught in games where I have not been interested in the game very much, or I'm out of it, so what's the point in really staying focused? But you fight that urge to pick up your phone and text somebody. You fight that urge to check your Facebook, or you saw that game earlier in the store and you want to check out the rating on Board Game Geek and see what it's all about. You fight it just because you're taking the time to have this interaction with other people. I think another one on this list that is a big one is criticizing other people's moves. Don't do it. That other person either is A, learning the game, B, they have a whole different mindset of what they're trying to do, or C, sure, maybe they're just not as good of a player as you, but why do you need to point that out? There's no reason to do it. That person's here to have fun, not be criticized.
Right. And that all sort of, again, what we're talking about here is just etiquette and realizing there's others around you, and that you want to be as polite and as put on your best behavior as possible, because at the end of the day, if you make someone angry, or if you frustrate someone else, or something you did, you may have lost that gaming partner.
And we're not sitting on top of our ivory tower handing out life lessons to you. I know for sure that I have been someone who's done with some of these things multiple times in one session. So I am not casting the first stone.
Sure.
I'm just trying to remind people and put it in a light so you think about it. I'm a coach. I coach basketball. I coach softball. I've coached wrestling. I've done so many different levels. And I have to remind myself many times. When I was a little kid, man, I was probably a bad sport at times. I got a little too physical on the soccer field, something like that, and I have to remind these kids because, they're kids. They're going to be impulsive. So this is, we're in a situation where humans, we're going to make mistakes. We get impulsive. We act with our emotion instead of, with our head sometimes. And this is just, one of those things that, just a reminder. And so the next time you think and reflect before you act.
Let me end this with one of the most important things. I can't tell you how many times I go to game night, or we have a game thing or a game gathering, and I can't tell you how many times we play new games. There's so many games out there. It doesn't happen very often where I play the same game twice. And it's because everyone has their own game collections, and so they'll bring something, and I've never played it before, and someone's teaching it. If you're going to be that teacher, please keep in mind, you've got to be patient. And if you've done any teaching in your life, you know that people aren't going to understand concepts sometimes that you're trying to teach. And it's not a personal blow on you that they're not getting it, so just try to not take it personally.
And me being a teacher, this really hits home because, understand that no question is a bad question.
Right.
If you're somehow relieving confusion, you're doing a good thing. It's not a bad thing that they're asking a question. It's not a bad thing that they're confused. The bad thing is if you don't help them with that confusion. To go along with the teaching thing, if you're playing a game that you already know and someone's trying to teach it, don't just jump in and take from them. Maybe that person's really excited to tell about that game and introduce it, and they take pride in the way they explain it. I have definitely, someone who's made this mistake where someone's explaining like, oh, either I've heard about it and I try to jump in and say, oh, this is what you do, or maybe I've played it myself and say, well, this is the way we explain it. It's their game. You are now, go for the ride. And if you say something like, hey, do you mind if I explain this a little bit, or do you mind if I chime in, you find a way, but just don't take it over, because it's their game, it's their introduction. Even if you think in your mind they're doing a bad job with it, then you just maybe clarify for others when the questions come up, but you don't take it over. Right.
And so let's end this. This is, and we wanted to just gloss over this real quick, just as a reminder, all those gamers out there, we are not perfect, and we do this. I think Hans and I have broken all these rules in the past, but we just want to say, keep those others in mind. You want to keep those gaming partners. We hope that you enjoyed today's show, and we hope that we can have you come back for more.
All right, I'm going to go eat some chicken wings.
Oh, wait, is it time yet? Is it time for the Super Bowl?
It's getting close. I got to go pick up some wings
Crap.
and go home.
Okay, let's go.
Thank you for joining the Huff-In-Stuff podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening and hope you can tune in next time. Huff-In-Stuff is brought to you by Southwestern Valley Gaming Group at swvalleygamingsgroup.webs.com. You can visit us on our webpage at huffandstuffpodcast.webs.com. That is HUFFNSTUFF podcast.webs.com. We love to hear from you, so leave us questions, feedback, or just say hi. As always, keep on smiling and game on.